Your random habits aren't random. The texts you send at midnight, the deadline you accidentally miss, the joke you crack in the one meeting that shouldn't include jokes. These aren't stray glitches, they are footprints. Sigmund Freud named the track they trace, the dynamic unconscious. Desire, fear, guilt, and old loyalties don't vanish, because your conscious mind prefers efficiency and good intentions. They move underground and push from below. The result is not chaos but compromise. Acts that look senseless on the surface but make perfect sense if you ask, what wish is trying to live and what ban is trying to hold? Psychoanalysis shows that nothing is accidental in mental life. This is not fatalism. The unconscious is influence, not destiny. The task is to stop being a mystery to yourself. Learn to read your slips and symptoms as messages, and renegotiate the deals you struck long ago so today's work, love, and voice belong to you. Freud did not discover a storage closet of forgotten thoughts. He described a force field. Psychic life is dynamic. Wishes press forward, prohibitions push back, and the mind produces a third thing neither side fully wanted. That third thing is the compromise formation. Consciously, you intend to send a crisp, professional email. Unconsciously, you also want to puncture the colleague who outshone you. The result is a careless tone that sours a relationship while letting you claim surprise. Consciously, you want to arrive on time. Unconsciously, you also want to protest the boss who treats you like a child. The result is lateness that punishes the authority while exposing you to punishment in turn. What looks like defect is often strategy in disguise, a negotiation between a wish and a ban. This is why slips, jokes, dreams, and symptoms matter. They are not noise, they are reports. The mispronounced name that swaps your partner with your ex, the joke that lands too sharp, the dream that undresses you in public, the forgetting of a promise, and the instant relief that follows. Each carries information. They betray not only desire, but also the senses that oppose it. Shame, fear of loss, old loyalties to a parent's rules, identifications with the one who hurt you. Put differently, your mind avoids open conflict by staging it sideways. Freud's sentence, "Psychoanalysis shows that nothing is accidental in mental life," is not mystical. It is descriptive. The mind economizes if a pattern repeats, it repeats for a reason, even when you swear it doesn't. The Friday spiral into drinking after a week of being good. The recurring argument that starts with chores and ends with threats. The way you always happen to date someone just out of reach. These are not meteor strikes. They are laws you are already living by, written below awareness. Avoid the trap of fatalism. Calling something unconscious is not the same as conceding defeat. The unconscious is active and revisable. Its contents change as experiences work through, as meanings are found, as bans lose their urgency or are replaced by rules you respect. The goal is not to eradicate conflict. No adult life is frictionless, but to move the negotiations into the light, where your reasons can be tested and your choices can be owned. Begin by swapping one question. Instead of "what's wrong with me?" ask, "what is this act achieving for me that I cannot admit I want?" The answer may not flatter, it will free. The accidental outburst won a boundary you were too timid to set. The missed deadline protected you from a promotion that scares you. The jealous snooping avoided the intimacy you fear. None of that excuses harm. All of it reveals purpose. Once purpose is acknowledged, alternatives appear. You can set the boundary without the explosion. You can face the fear and accept or decline the promotion for reasons, not sabotage. You can ask for reassurance instead of staging a betrayal to justify withdrawal. Mystery becomes method. Method becomes change. Freud's genius was to treat small embarrassments as serious data. You forget a name at the one moment you needed it. You introduce your girlfriend by your ex's name and go cold inside as if a stranger spoke through you. You send the wrong file that exposes your underpreparedness. You leave your wallet at home on the day you promised to pay. These are not cosmic jokes. They are parapraxes, faulty actions that reveal a wish, a fear, or both. The slip is the compromise formation in miniature. The wish comes through, the ban asserts itself, and you get a hybrid act that satisfies neither fully but protects both partially. Symptoms carry the same grammar. Procrastination isn't laziness, it's a vote. Part of you wants the project finished. Part of you wants the safety of the unfinished, where judgment cannot land. Perfectionism isn't excellence, it's refusal. Keeping the peace in the studio forever, so the world never gets to say no. Chronic bad luck in scheduling difficult conversations ensures they never happen while permitting you to say you tried recurrent colds during holidays that trigger old family trauma. Look like biology, but often include strategy. The body makes an exit, the mouth cannot ask for. None of this means you are faking. It means mind and body are in coalition. The logic is usually simple. Wishes seek expression, pleasure, power, relief, revenge, closeness, superiority. Bans forbid expression, conscience, fear of abandonment, fear of punishment, loyalty to a parent, identification with a rule that once kept you safe. The symptom lets the wish live a little while, paying the ban with a cost. Your sarcastic joke lets resentment bleed while allowing you to claim it was only humor. Your forgetting of a debt gives you brief freedom while inviting the scolding you think you deserve. Your clumsiness with the new love interest creates drama that feels like home and avoids the terror of calm. Reading this logic is not about shaming yourself with cleverness. It is about replacing confusion with clarity. Ask the two-part question Freud loved. If this slip had a purpose, what would it be if this symptom were a compromise between a wish and a ban? Which wish and which ban? When the answer snaps into place, the relief can feel indecent because something long denied is finally named. You did not forget to text back. You wanted to punish her for not reading you. You did not miss the deadline by accident. You wanted to signal you are overloaded and cannot say no. You did not suddenly lose interest. You are repeating the old ritual in which desire flips to discuss the moment intimacy becomes real. Avoid two mistakes. First, don't treat interpretation as a weapon. Knowing why you did it does not excuse doing it again. Second, don't treat interpretation as a magic spell. Insight loosens the knot. Practice unties it. When you can say, I wanted X and feared Y, so I did Z, you have taken the act out of the shadows. Now you can attempt the adult version. Ask for X, face Y, choose something other than Z. The unconscious will protest. Good. You can answer it now, in words and deeds, instead of letting it run your hands. Auto-sabotage at work is rarely stupidity. It is loyalty to an unconscious rule. Perhaps you learned that being visible attracts attack, so you deliver 90% and stall where applause would begin. Perhaps your father's voice lives in your superego, and surpassing his record feels like betrayal, so you mysteriously introduce errors when you near a new peak. Perhaps the first time you took initiative, you were shamed, so you camouflage ambition as aloofness. The pattern looks like incompetence, but the motive is protection. Avoid envy, avoid punishment, avoid guilt, avoid abandonment. The cost is obvious, stagnation, but the mind calculates the exchange as safer than exposure. Perfectionism is one of the cleanest examples. It dresses in excellence while serving fear. If the deliverable never ships, the judgment never arrives, and the fantasy of your ideal self stays intact. The unconscious win is narcotic. You feel superior to the world that doesn't get it, while staying immune from its verdict. Procrastination does similar work. The last-minute sprint produces just enough drama to dull anxiety, and just enough mediocrity to justify the belief that, if I had time, I'd be great. Both keep you within a familiar identity, which is why advice alone rarely touches them. You are negotiating with a story, not a calendar. Transference turns offices into stage sets for old scenes. A manager's tone resembles a parent's, and your body responds with defiance or fawning you cannot explain. A peer's success evokes sibling rivalry you deny, and you begin to forget to loop them in. A direct report's neediness echoes a family role you resented, and you become punitive in the name of standards. The present is not clean. It is overlaid by history. Understanding that overlay is not an excuse. It is a lever. When you can say, I am not fighting my boss, I am fighting my father inside my boss's silhouette, you gain inches of freedom to behave in proportion to the actual person in front of you. Guilt about success is another saboteur. For some, thriving feels like abandoning the tribe. Money brings isolation. Leadership brings envy. Excellence brings the charge of arrogance. To cancel the guilt, you invite penalties, missed flights, sloppy presentations, unforced conflicts, self-righteous stands that derail momentum. The unconscious settles the debt with the superego by installing losses where wins should be. The cure is not masochism denied but guilt addressed. You need a new contract with your values. Success will fund responsibility, not superiority. Growth will extend care, not withdraw it. When guilt has honest work, it stops seeking punishment. The point is not to pathologize every delay. The point is to ask, when sabotage recurs, whose law am I obeying? If the answer is a ghost's, you can thank the rule for keeping you alive in its time and retire it from the present. Practically, that means shipping on purpose, tolerating judgment without collapse, and making amends when drama replaces delivery. It means speaking ambition out loud to shrink its shame. It means letting envy be a map to your own desires instead of a reason to slash at others. Work becomes easier, not because the load shrinks, but because your hands are no longer tied by bands you didn't know you had signed. Romantic life is where the unconscious performs its most expensive magic. You swear you want stability, then you choose the person whose every cue says maybe. You crave warmth, then you feel bored with the one who offers it. You promise yourself no more games, then you test allegiance until the bond snaps. Freud would not be surprised. Love is the favored theater of compromise formations, where wishes long repressed and bands long enforced meet and stage a drama that feels like fate. Repetition compulsion is the director. You recreate unresolved situations not because you like pain, but because you want a new ending with the same script. If affection in childhood arrived with unpredictability, you chase volatility not because you enjoy panic, but because your body believes love is indistinguishable from waiting. If care arrived with criticism, you select partners who bruise you with truth, then argue that honesty matters more than tenderness. If you learn that being desired is dangerous, you flirt until heat rises, then flip into disgust or righteousness and exit claiming principle. Each pattern is a compromise. Desire lives, the ban lives, and you remain protected from the intimacy you both seek and fear. Projection and displacement do the daily work. You assign motives to partners that are yours. You must want to control me means I want to control the terms, and you punish them for moods they didn't cause. You move anger from the real source, a workplace humiliation, to the safe target at home and call it communication. Jealousy becomes a defense not against betrayal, but against closeness. If you can make them guilty, you won't have to risk being known. Ghosting is the purest compromise formation. You end without ending, so the other cannot reject you, while you can tell yourself you avoided cruelty. Porn loops, compulsive messaging, and strategic unavailability are not simply cultural plagues. They are self-medications. They deliver the impression of desire without the risk of discovery, the image of intimacy without the surrender of control. For many men, they protect against a deeper terror, being found ordinary. Better to be alone by choice than to be chosen and found insufficient. The cost is obvious, numbness, but the unconscious books it as safety. The way out is not moralizing, it is precision. Name the wish and name the ban. I want warmth and I fear dependence. I want devotion and I fear being trapped. I want to be admired and I fear being measured. Then ask whether your current method, chasing the cool, testing the faithful, disappearing before sunrise, achieves either aim honestly. It doesn't. Alternatives exist. Ask for the intimacy you want and tolerate the shame of wanting. Receive care and negotiate space instead of creating chaos to force distance. Admit the need to be seen and do work that makes you worth seeing. None of this guarantees romance. It guarantees adulthood. You stop dragging strangers into your childhood and calling it chemistry. If the unconscious is active, the cure is not suppression, but conversation. Freud's method, free association, invites you to follow threads without censorship until the wish behind the symptom surfaces and the ban shows its face. You can practice a modest version in daily life. Take a recurring act you hate in yourself. Speak out loud what it achieves. My sarcasm punishes need. My lateness asserts power. My flirting collects admiration to anesthetize fear. It may sting, let it. Then ask what law forbids a cleaner route. If I asked for space, would I be abandoned? If I admitted envy, would I be exiled? If I took pride, would I be attacked? Now you are in the negotiation where change happens. Dreams remain a royal road, not because they predict, but because they stage your compromises with fewer censors. Write the images before your day scorches them. Don't puzzle like a code breaker. Ask how the dream felt and where that feeling has been living lately. The dream that parades you naked in a boardroom is rarely about humiliation for fun. It is about exposure, pride, and punishment braided together. The chase dream is about a wish to be caught by what you also run from. The house with locked rooms is the map of a self you don't enter. The aim is not to be clever. It is to become familiar with your own motifs so daytime acts no longer surprise you. Defenses are the unconscious's translators. Reaction formation turns an unacceptable impulse into its opposite. The man loudly championing purity may be hiding ravenous desire from himself. Rationalization writes a clean essay after a dirty choice. It keeps you from repair by making your act sound noble. Projection assigns to others what you cannot bear to see in yourself, guaranteeing permanent conflict and zero growth. Once you can catch a defense in flight, you can supply the truth it conceals. I'm not disgusted, I'm afraid. I'm not superior, I'm ashamed. I'm not bored, I'm terrified of being known. Sublimation is Freud's most generous route out. Instead of crushing a wish, you give it work to do that society, and your conscience can tolerate aggression, becomes boundary and protection. Voyeurism becomes a serious eye for detail in craft or study. Exhibitionism becomes performance that entertains rather than exploits. The wish keeps its intensity. The world stops paying for it with collateral damage. Therapy exists because some negotiations need a third presence. A trained witness who won't be seduced by your defenses or repelled by your wishes. Transference, mistaking the therapist for an old figure, is not a bug. It is the material. You learn in real time how you repeat, and you can repeat differently with a person who won't retaliate or seduce. If therapy is not available, Choose a friend who prefers truth to flattery and can sit with your less flattering confessions. The point is not confession as catharsis, it is confession as contract. Now that the wish and the ban are on the table, what adult act will replace the symptom? Avoid fatalism. The unconscious is influence, not destiny. Every time you translate a symptom into a sentence and a sentence into a decision, you weaken the need for the old compromise it will return. You will answer. No exorcism, just practice. Over time, your life becomes less surprising to you, not because it shrank, but because the driver's seat has your name on it and the map is in your lap. The end of this road is not self-accusation, it is self-governance. You stop dramatizing your patterns as curses and start reading them as contracts you can renegotiate. You treat slips and symptoms as memos rather than verdicts. You stop asking to become a different animal and begin arranging the animal you are so its claws serve and its teeth do not wound those you love. Freud does not promise serenity. He promises intelligibility. When you know what your acts are doing, you can put the ethics back into them. That ethic begins with respect for conflict. Two truths are often alive at once. You want closeness and you want freedom. You want admiration and you want to hide. You want triumph and you want to avoid envy. Pretending one side vanished is how symptoms proliferate. Admitting the tension lets you write rules that honor both without letting either dictate. Ask for closeness while scheduling solitude. Seek admiration where you can bear to be measured. Pursue triumph while pledging concrete acts of generosity that keep guilt from demanding punishment. Next comes a kinder superego. The inner judge that once kept you safe with shame and punishment must be retrained into conscience. Firm, proportionate, specific. Instead of, "You're disgusting," you learn to say, "You lied there, repair it today." Instead of, "You always ruin everything," you say, "You sabotage because you were afraid." Next time, ask for help before the deadline. This shift is not softness, it is precision. Harshness breeds more symptoms. Clarity breeds repair. Finally, you install rituals that keep conversation with the unconscious regular. Not ascetic drills, living is not a lab, but quiet habits that invite messages before symptoms have to shout. A page of honest writing before screens. A moment to name what you want and what you fear before you commit. A debrief after a conflict that asks what wish and what ban were fighting. You won't catch everything. You will catch enough that your days stop feeling like ambushes you must escape. Bring this to work by choosing one pattern to retire with words instead of sabotage. Tell your manager you want more scope and the feedback that scares you. Then stay long enough to receive it without converting it into self-attack. Bring it to love by asking directly for what you usually angle for, then absorbing the risk that follows without staging a meltdown. Bring it to friendship by admitting envy before it curdles into contempt, then letting desire point you toward your own neglected projects rather than toward someone else's downfall. If you arrived here, the mystery is already thinner. Keep it that way. When the next accident happens, don't curse your weakness. Translate the event. When a symptom returns, don't swear you've learned nothing. Renegotiate the deal. When shame surges, don't fight it with grandiosity. Shrink it with a specific act of repair. The unconscious will remain active. Good. It is part of your depth, your strangeness, your fuel. Your job is to keep it talking. Keep it working for your present rather than for your past. And keep your hands on the wheel while the old passengers argue in the back. You don't have to be a mystery to yourself. You can be a conversation that tells the truth, a life that swaps accident for authorship, a man who reads his own signals and chooses in daylight. Remember the line that started this. Psychoanalysis shows that nothing is accidental in mental life. Treat that not as a sentence, but as permission. If nothing is accidental, everything can be interpreted, and much can be changed.